Hey everybody out there, and welcome to another My Two Cents. Thanks for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed the last couple. Today I'm actually going back to my first one, which is nothing as good or bad as it seems in the moment. You guys asked me a bunch of questions, so there seemed to be a theme from that particular one on the questions you were asking. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through some of the questions you guys left in comments. And on this one, if you leave them in comments, I'll read them, and eventually I'll get to those ones too. There was a theme to the comments. I'll give you some of the questions that I'm going to go through. So the first one was Dr. T. Rich, and he wanted to know how about the finer details of how you started Jackson Kayak. It's kind of like, what risk did you take to make it happen? So it was about risk was the main question. And then the next one was about the incident. This is 916 Wilton. I'm not sure who that is exactly, but they wanted to know about, after I drove the RV into the water, or my dog did, how does that change my launching procedure? Do I have apprehension? Or basically, how do you learn from negative experiences and fight the apprehension to try again? That's going to be one we get to. Very much same kind of category. We do have one from Ben Quanley out of Texas. He's got a daughter that's a great kayaker, and he's a great kayaker, has a great kayak school, does Team River Runner stuff. Awesome dude. He wants to know about U.S. manufacturing, what value does it have for your customers, your team, your community, stuff like that, which is a different topic. May get in that a little bit, but not too much. Claire Hoffman, she wanted to know more, when I was starting Jackson Kayak, what were your leaps of faith? How did you know when to trust your gut when you're starting your family? So it was, again, the theme here seems to be risk and apprehension, and if I might be reading between the lines, but it seems to me a little bit of it is oh my god, why is it stopped? I don't know if I'm still recording. I am still recording. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we're still good. Okay, so anyway, a lot of the questions seem to be about people getting to a stopping point and being like, talking themselves out of doing stuff, or simply not quite getting started because the risk is out there and the risk of failure. Motivation is stronger than the desire for success or desire for what you're trying to do. This is a subject that I think I can cover pretty well, because I do start a lot of things, and a lot of things that people say can't happen or aren't going to work. I'm actually going to give you a little story about when I started Jackson Kayak. So but before I started Jackson Kayak, I worked for Confluence, which owned Wave Sport. I was a brand manager for Wave Sport. Eventually they fired me as brand manager and designer. They fired David Knight, who was the designer first. My design partner, which that was a dumb thing to do, seeing he's like the best guy they could ever have there. And then I was just a super high-paid athlete. You could be like, that's a sweet deal. You've got a great salary, and all you got to do is go kayaking every day. But of course, I wanted to make my mark in the industry. I had a lot of stuff I wanted to do. In this particular case, Dane was getting to be a kayaker, and he had a prototype kayak that was just a little. It was called the Ace 2.1 is what it was. But it was getting kind of beatered up, and I had no way to make him another one. Confluence didn't want to make a kid's boat. So anyway, I quit, and then ultimately I started thinking about, Christine and I were talking about starting Jackson Kayak. What should I do? And I'm like, well, I need to make Dane a boat. So I knew a lot of the dealers around the country. I started calling dealers and say, hey, how's it going? This is EJ. Hey Jay, what's going on? Hey man, I'm thinking of starting a whitewater kayak company, and they'd usually stop me in my tracks right there and say, no, whoa. The last thing this world needs right now is another whitewater kayak company. And I also had World Kayak Federation at the time. They're like, why don't you just do World Kayak? Run events and do instruction and be the new certifying body to take on ACA and blah blah blah, stuff like that. Anyway, I went through, let's just say, I don't remember the exact number, but let's say 15 of the largest whitewater kayak dealers around the country, and asked them about starting a kayak company. You know how many of them thought that was a good idea? 0, not one. And then, if you really want to make it even better, I was like, not only want to start a kayak company, but I want my first kayak to be a kid's boat, like a little boat for Dane and any other kid that we can learn to, teach how to kayak. These kids would be like from 30 to 80 pounds, because that's the size of kayak I'm thinking of making. 100% of them said, I've never seen a kid that size kayak, and I don't think we'll sell any of those, so that's even a worse idea. Like, you want to start a kayak company, and you want to launch it with a boat that we probably can't sell any of. So literally I did my market research, and the feedback was 100% negative. Like, no, not going to work. Well, obviously I started Jackson Kayak anyway, and the reason I started it was because I think I felt like I knew better. Like, yeah, these dealers, they were giving me the advice that was the good, safe advice. There was a glut of whitewater brands at that time. It was Dagger, Liquid Logic, Piranha, Wave Sport, Ballistic, and a few others that were out there. And declining whitewater market. People were buying less whitewater boats. Dealers had all these brands, and it was like, we don't need another brand. Like, it's going to be hard to sell. But what they didn't understand is that I had an idea of how to make great whitewater kayaks. I was going to make them lighter, more comfortable, more durable, better designs. I was going to make them sized properly, like a fun 1.5, a 2 fun, a fun, a 4 fun, and a super fun, for example, 6 sizes. That was pretty awesome. The concept was novel. Nobody was doing anything like that. I felt that was going to do the trick. So what did I do? I started a kayak company, and I got a guy that Jesse Stone introduced me to. Tony Lunt became my partner. He invested in the business. He gave me the seed capital to get started. Anyway, I just told him my story of what I wanted to do, and he was behind it. I don't think he knew that none of the dealers wanted to, thought I should start a kayak company. But the point of the whole thing, that's an example of where you're getting good advice from people that in theory should know what's up. The people that would be selling my boats are the ones saying don't do it. A lot of them even said, yeah, don't do it, and if you do it, I'm not going to buy your boats anyway, because we don't need more kayak companies. Okay. Obviously I started the brand, and once I started it, people were like, he did it anyway. Okay. And every dealer that I talked to, out of the 80 dealers, but 2 brought my boats in. And the 2 that I didn't open, one called me 5 minutes later. His wife called back 5 minutes later and said, EJ, no, we do want to carry your boats. But it was too late. I'd already called another dealer in town, and they opened the boats, opened me up. Anyway, that was one reason. And the other one was, one in DC didn't want to open us up because they refused to sell kids' boats. And I refused to open anybody that didn't carry our kids' boats. So that's where we started a new dealer there. But the other 78 dealers opened us up. The moral of the story is, just because people think, just because the advice you get is the people you talk to that care about you, want you to do well, if the advice is, man, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, that shouldn't affect the outcome at all. In fact, I'll give you a little an EJ decision-making thing. If you're trying to do anything really good, like not just like, hey, what restaurant you want to go to? Hey, let's go here, there. Man, that's no biggie. It's a no-win, no-lose situation, right? Wherever you go is going to be just fine. However, if it's like something like a life-changing thing, like what should I do? If literally this is part of my decision-making, if if I ask 10 people, hey, what do you think of this? And all 10 of them think it's a good idea, I'm probably not doing anything new or cool or anything that is really going to add any real value to my life or anybody else. If it's unanimous, man, I wouldn't do that. I think I might be onto something. And the reason for that is a variety of things, but reason number one, people that care about you want to give you advice that they believe is safe advice. So your parents, like, what should I do for a career? The advice isn't gonna be do something that nobody's ever done before and succeeded. It's gonna be something that they think is worthy of your skills, talents, and energy, but it's a proven thing that these million people did it and it worked. Like, become an engineer, become a doctor, become a whatever. This path, go to this college, and then take this path. It's proven. Now, not everybody have to work hard to do it, but you can do that. Another example is being a pro whitewater kayaker. I dropped out of engineering school, and we're going to get to some of your questions are about how do you get up the courage to make these decisions. I'll get to that in a second, but just another story of an example of where the advice is don't do this, and then the path is different. And looking back, some of my best decisions were based on that. So I was in engineering school, and I decided to go to Washington, D.C. to train for kayaking. And eventually I made the U.S. B team. I got to go to Europe, do some races, life-changing experience. My first time out of the U.S. other than Canada. And it was like, how do I do that again? I just went kayaking for 6 weeks, got to go all these countries, got to meet all these cool people, had my first European girlfriends. This is back when I was 20, before I met Christine. Like, man, this is cool. I'm going to do that again. So I dropped out of college to be a full-time kayaker. Now, of course, if this is 1984, there's no such thing as a full-time kayaker. Certainly not such thing as a sponsored kayaker or whatever. There's people that teach kayaking. They're kayak schools, or they sell kayaks, or they take people on trips. But as an athlete, there really wasn't any such thing. Well, my dad was not impressed. Everybody I knew said, what are you doing? What are you going to do in the future? 100% of the energy that anybody gave to me in terms of that life decision or what I should do next was all trying to drive me back to finishing school and taking care of what you're going to do, because you can't kayak forever. And you certainly can't be an athlete forever. I'm like, well, like, duh. People know that. You peak at 28, and what are you going to do when you're 29? Now, looking back on it, had I not done that, I wouldn't have spent so much time kayaking. I wouldn't have become the kayaker I was as an athlete and made the U.S. team, become a world champion, and then learning about boat design and learning about the kayak industry and all these things that I was able to do just by kayaking all the time. Then I couldn't have turned that into a career. Couldn't have kayaked every day, go in the RV and travel around, do nothing but kayak, make kayaks. Basically, my life would have been done something else. So anyway, that not listening to people was the smartest thing. I don't know if I'm saying it's smart. I was just pretty pig-headed. I wanted to go kayaking. Like, I really, really, really wanted to do it. And that is, by the way, a key component. And now we're going to get kind of into the logistics of decision making. We already did some decision making stuff, setting priorities and whatever, which really helps, by the way. Go back to my priority, my 2 cents. Like, it's a decision making. Go back on my YouTube channel, do that, and that's about literally daily decision making. But this is more big picture and having the courage to know you're doing the right thing. Okay, so I've gone to the concept that if everybody tells you it's a bad idea, but it's something you really want to do, I think you're probably on the right track. The opposite of the advice you get, like, let me poll a bunch of people. And it's the people that care about you most, I believe, give you the worst advice. They are least, in many cases, least likely to try to motivate you to do something. They are likely to motivate you to do something if it's something that a lot of other people have done and they feel there's a high chance of success. If they feel it's a very low chance of success, meaning not many people do it successfully, you're probably not going to get pushed in that direction from the people that care about you. I'll give you another example. I'll give you an example that I think everybody's experienced if you've done any kind of athletics or in school. Growing up the whole time, I always heard that chances of making the Olympic team are like 1 in a million or some astronomical number. Like all these people try to go to the Olympics, but it's like 1 in a million. So only a few people make the Olympics, right? That is a true statistic. However, it is the chances of being able to go to the Olympics, if that is your objective and you dedicate yourself to that, you really, really want to do that, isn't 1 in a million anymore. It can go really high, to the point, like, let's say you're trying to do it in whitewater kayaking. And how many whitewater kayakers did slalom back in, or do slalom today? Not that many. Not 1 million of them. Not even 1,000 of them. In a men's kayak class, 100. Okay. If you're just totally average and you're just like using like random, and it'd be 1 in 100 chance. So the statistics don't hold anymore. And if you are super motivated and go long enough, it goes from 1 in 100 to 1 in 50 to 1 in 20, 1 in 10, 1 in 5. Can get really high. So anyway, the statistics that people use for this kind of stuff usually don't hold water. If you really want to do something, and everybody says it's not high potential chance of it succeeding, if you really drill down and really want to do it and willing to do what it takes to do it, your chances go up dramatically to the point where it could be 100%. Okay, specific question. So finer details on how I started Jackson Kayak. There's a lot of stuff online about that. Google Jackson Kayak, founding Jackson Kayak, or whatever. On jacksonkayak.com I talk about it a lot. But I told you about how it very much started, like the beginning, the concept, no support, decided to do it. Jesse Stone's friend, Tony, I got to meet him, became my friend, became my partner, and gave me the seed money to get started, and to this day is like absolutely major part of Jackson Kayak. Would not be successful if it weren't for him. I'm not going to get into the details, business side right now. Okay, now we're going to go to the opposite side. We're going to talk about fear and desire. So you cannot be successful if you're motivated by fear. The biggest challenge that anybody has, and it exists in Jackson Kayak, is when you talk about the risk. Let's just talk about the risk. What are the risks? What are the risks? If you get a bunch of people together in a meeting, this is like related to business, for example, and you're just focused on the risk, the concept comes up, and there's always somebody that just can't wait to talk about how it can go wrong, you just become paralyzed. Nothing happens, and you all agree that that's the smart decision because, man, look at the risk. This can happen, and this can happen, and this can happen. Absolutely. And if you're focused on what can happen that's negative, you're taking your focus on what you need to do to make it work and not fail that is positive. Now there's a program called The Psychology of Winning by Dennis Waitley. It's a pop psychology thing. But there's he kind of describes fear and desire this way. He says, fear and desire are both strong motivators, but they're pulls apart. Fear is the negative motivator that tightens, constricts, and ultimately scuttles plans, where desire is like the bow pulled taut to propel the arrow to the bullseye. It's your driving force. And I think that kind of illustrates it pretty well in both how it feels, but also in the results. When you do things based on fear, and somebody actually asked me this exact question, like, after the ramp incident, what types of feelings do you currently have when launching your bass boat? Is there nervousness, apprehension? And basically, somebody's had a negative experience because they ask, hey, how do we learn from a negative experience, and how do we fight the apprehension to try again? Okay, so when something happens that you get slapped upside the head, you're like, man, I don't want to do that again. In my particular case, we're talking about my bass boat went in the water like, wah, or not my RV. Now I've got another RV and I'm launching it, and the question is there more apprehension? The answer is there was a little bit. The first time it was like, okay, how do I prevent this from happening again? But the apprehension went away immediately once I knew how to do it, so my dog couldn't drive the RV in the water anymore. Simply, number one, I got an RV that my dog can't drive, and number two, I chalk the wheels when I'm there. That's not a bad idea. Chalk the wheels, can't go in the water. Now there's a little bit of time when I get out of the RV to chalk the wheels. My RV could go in the water, but I've got the chalk. Even if it started moving, I could chalk the wheels, it'd be done. Anyway, the way to not have apprehension after something happens is to figure out how to make sure it doesn't happen again. Simple as that. If it's possible for it to happen again, like let's say you're a whitewater kayaker and you flip over and hit your helmet on a rock or something, or flip over and bang and hurt your shoulder. Like, how do you know that's not going to happen again? You don't know that that's not going to happen again. But that's where your two motivating factors control what happens next. Which motivating factor is stronger? Fear of a negative outcome or desire for the positive outcome? And you really have to be honest with yourself on these things. And some people naturally are more motivated by the fear of a negative outcome. Those people don't do a whole lot of stuff. And then there's people that are motivated by the positive outcome, what they're trying to achieve at a high level. Those people do a lot of things. It's really that simple. If you're focused on the negative, you can look at all the different things you didn't do. If you're focused on the positive, you can look at all the things you did do, and then you're also going to have things that didn't work out. Okay, so my trick for focusing on the positive is, and in business, a lot of people in my own company think, well, I have to think about the negatives because EJ doesn't. That's absolutely not true. What I do is I look at the negatives, like what if this doesn't work, what would happen, or what could happen to make this not work? What are the risks of making it not work? And I look at it, and I'm like, okay, that can happen, that can happen, that can happen. Okay, what do I have to do to make it work? Or can I drive it to make it work no matter what? Like if I have little failures, or this didn't really work out, like do I have a way to salvage that and keep going until it does work? Yeah, okay. Then the negative doesn't matter anymore. Why? Because something little happens. I don't know, we're going to have a hard time selling this for right now, but I need to try this approach to sell it, and I've got other approaches, other things I can do. Okay, and then that's essentially the process I go through. Look at the negative. Is that negative palatable? Like if it happened, like, not really. Okay, that's fine. Does that mean not do it? No, let's look at making it happen. Is there any way that as long as I don't quit and I keep charging ahead, that I can fail on this? Like, no, as long as I stay focused on making it happen. Oh, okay. So really failure in most cases comes down to whether you're going to quit on it, especially for projects. So that's the general thought process I go through is look at the negative, like what can happen. Is this something I really want to do? Is this something I think I can make happen? Yeah. Would it be bad if it didn't happen? Oh God, that would suck. Okay. But I want it bad enough that even if I run into challenges, I'm going to keep charging ahead, right? Yeah. And then if I keep charging ahead, eventually I can make it happen. Yeah. So, okay, go. And then you're done. And then you're really just focused on the steps you have to take. Now, if you constantly have the negative looming there and just thinking about the negative and like, ooh, I hope this doesn't happen, ooh, it doesn't, you're going to make that happen. Your brain tends to travel towards that which your currently dominant thoughts. So if your thoughts are dominated based on the negatives or the bad things can happen, you're going to make them happen anyway. If your thoughts are dominated on the positive things you want to make happen, you're going to move that direction. Okay, so now that helps. And I guess another more recent example would be me becoming a pro tournament bass fisherman, right? So there's a FLW league. There's 40,000 people fish the league. 160 of the top guys get to fish on the pro tour. I managed to get in 2 years onto the top 160 pro tour, and that was in 2016. I imagined that I would like maybe get a check, meaning I get in the top third, get a $10,000 check at 3 out of the 6 tournaments in the first season. How many checks did I get? 0. Did I fail? I did fail in terms of I didn't achieve the goal that I set my first year. But did I fail? No. Did I have fun on tour? Absolutely. Did I learn a lot? Absolutely. Do I want to continue doing it? Absolutely. Did I get on tour, manage to stay on tour for year 2? I did. The second year I thought I would get at least half the tournaments I'd get a check. How many did I get? 0. What was my rank? 139th out of the 170. Like, ooh. Or actually it was 200 that year. So 139 out of 200. I was in the bottom half. In a lot of ways, if you're just looking at stats, you'd be like, man, that guy Eric Jackson sucks. He's a total failure on tour. He didn't win any tournaments. He's not in the Angler of the Year race. There's nothing about his results that are saying, like, man, that guy's crushing it. But guess what? I'm crushing it in my mind. Now, am I achieving the goals? Like, have I won tournaments? Am I the current Angler of the Year? No. Is that where I want to go? Yeah. And am I motivated to do so? Yeah. What gives me the confidence to keep going? Like, clearly, after I'm currently ranked 129th, I think, right now. In my 4th season. What the heck? Like, EJ, maybe you should be doing something else. No, I like doing this, and I really want to be like the new Kevin Van Dam of bass fishing, kind of like, or the new, the EJ of bass fishing, like EJ whitewater kayaker dude. I want to achieve those kind of goals or results as a bass fisherman. That is what my currently living situation in terms of as a tournament angler. I don't have the positive reinforcement that I would get if I just want to go feel good about myself. I can do a whitewater competition. And worst case scenario, the worst team trials, I just got 6th place. Like, still 6th place. That's not too bad. But that's a bad event. I still can feel good about myself as a whitewater kayaker competing wise. The reason that it doesn't matter that I have yet to achieve all the goals is because I knew what would happen. What do I need to do so that I have the time to be successful as a tournament bass fisherman? Well, it costs $32,000 a year just in entry fees. Well, certainly I can't just afford to get no prize money and spend 32 grand on entry fees and then equipment and travel and blah blah blah. So I need to give myself the time and the confidence to do whatever it takes to get to the top and not be forced off of financially, for example. So having the sponsorships that I need to help me with my tournament bass fishing. So I work hard to make sure that isn't a problem. So that's something that if I have that piece of the puzzle in place, that gives me the longevity to focus and get to the top. And that's gone through series, but generally speaking, since the last 4 years, I've been able to break even or make money as a tournament bass fisherman, ranked over 100th place. A lot of tournament bass fishermen, the way they approach it and why they disappear with a higher ranking than me, because they'll go and say, okay, I've been fishing these lower leagues. I feel ready. I'm ready to hit the tour against the top guys. Okay, I'm going to give it a year or two, and if I'm making money in a year or two, then I'll continue. But if not, then I've failed. So these guys come on board, they go for it, and then they don't achieve enough. They don't make money. They don't spend the time to try to get some kind of support network above and beyond winning prize money. They think to themselves, holy crap, I'm sinking my ship. Their wife or their family are like, what are you doing? You're spending this money. It's clearly not working. Hey, but good job. You gave it your best shot. You made it on tour. You know, you lived your dream for a year, but it's not working out. And they quit. Oh my God, that's like the most depressing thought of all time to me. In whitewater kayaking, it took me 5 years from the time I started full-time training in '84 until I made the team in '89. People are like, man, that's a lot of sacrifice. And this is the next kind of part that people are asking about. I can't see it. Actually, I forgot to copy and paste it. But anyway, one of the next parts is like questions that I had or on the comment section. By the way, if you have any questions, you want new future stuff, make sure you put it in the comment section. So the next question is sacrifice. I try not to sacrifice ever. I have a thing called life without compromise. You know, remember we talked about priority lists and whatever. If the things you're doing, you're trying, let's say I'm trying to be a champion tournament bass fisherman. Let's go back to my kayaking. I want to be a whitewater kayaker. 5 years of full-time training before I made the U.S. team, dropping out of college, living a dirtbag life. I mean, like barely surviving, living in my car or whatever. People were like, man, that's a lot of sacrifice. No, there was zero sacrifice. I can't think of a single sacrifice. Sacrifice is when you give up something really, really important to you for something else. It wasn't a sacrifice. I'm doing my favorite thing, and I'm giving up the opportunity to make a lot of money. I'm giving up the opportunity to go, I don't know, play golf or do all these recreational activities because I'm out kayaking. But all those are less important than my kayaking. So it's not a sacrifice when the thing that you're doing all the time is your most important thing, and it's what you want to do because it's important to you. So if I want to be a champion tournament fisherman and I enjoy the process, I want to fish the next tournament, I want to train, then guess what? There's no sacrifice there. If it takes 10 years, hey, great ride, been fun the whole way. If I never get there and I suck my whole, hey, how's it going, dog? If I were to suck my whole life and be like in the bottom 50%, which isn't sucking, by the way, bottom 50% of the top tier. Anyway, if I was going to be in the bottom 50% my whole life and never make any kind of inroads, there would be no regrets. Why? Because, man, this is amazing, super fun. That is where the motivation comes from, and that is where you can eliminate the fear of failure, is when you are choosing the right task or the right personal goals or the right path. If you are doing something you really don't like, and the whole idea is just to start a business, to make money, to have a lot of money so that one day you can play, that is sacrifice. And every day, every moment that you're working on that thing, that project, you kind of wish you were doing something else, and that is regret. And you get older, you get sick, you lose friends, you lose family, and then you get to the end zone and you're not happy anyway, so that sucks. So don't do that. Okay, I think we covered enough stuff. Just to kind of summarize, the general concept is if you stay focused on the positives, on the motivation, the desire of achieving or doing something, it eliminates the dwelling on the negative. And remember, the negative makes you like this, like, and then paralysis by analysis. You know, there's a lot of terms for it, but essentially you just shut down and it's a no starter. And if you're surrounded by people that are trying to focus on the negative or give you all the negatives because they think that you don't pay attention to them. And I find myself in a situation often where people are like, "Oh, you don't think of this, you don't think of that." I'm like, "Hey man, I thought of that. I moved past that a long time ago. We're going to succeed and we're over here." It's really important to know what the downside is, and if it's acceptable, or you feel like you can achieve it without the downside happening, then if you want to do it, you got to just stay focused on the actual goal and the steps and actions you need to take to do it. And that takes up your brain power, and all those negatives go away, and you've got positive, fun, happy motivation. And that is a big difference. Like when you get up and you're like, "Ooh, I can't wait to do this, man. I'm gonna do it." And a hurdle comes in there, and you're like, "Ooh, man, I gotta get over that." And you just keep getting over hurdles. Every hurdle goes in front of you. You find a way over it, around it, or through it, because you're gonna keep going, and you're enjoying it because what you're doing is important to you, and you're not gonna let that little hurdle stop you, or a big hurdle. Cool. That's just my 2 cents. It's up to you to take what you want from it. Some of it probably pretty good. Some of it might need development, and you can add to it, and you can give me some of your 2 cents. Anyway, we'll see you next week.